And on today's show, Women and Life Expectancy. Part 2 of this week's series, The Strategies to Maximize Social Security Benefits with Social Security strategist and expert Brian Doherty. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and Insmart. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
I really enjoy you because you really are so focused. I mean, some people's practices are niche. This is really niched.
Yeah.
Social Security only.
Yeah.
And we're talking about two issues today, longevity and women. I remember back in the year just before we went into the new millennia, we were looking at second to die death claims. And it was interesting how many of the males we predicted would died about a year either side of the tables. But women kept living past the table, so really second to die death claims were very low in the 20th century. Yep. How much does this matter in Social Security? Because everybody, as we talked about yesterday, people say, well, I'm not even going to be around. I might as well take my benefits now.
Well, it matters a great deal. I say in my book that Social Security is actually a bigger women's issue because women overwhelmingly outlive men. And when you talk about things such as the survivor benefit, overwhelmingly, women are the beneficiaries of the survivor benefit. They receive it much more than men because they live longer than men. And this life expectancy term that people hear about throughout their whole lives, they think they have an idea of what it means, but they really don't. There's two aspects of it. One, the average life expectancy when people were born in this country, if you combine men and women, is around age 78. And I've talked to enough people and they think that I think in their head they think that most people die by the time they're age 78. That is not the case. Life expectancy is simply a statistical average. It's a mean. And what it means, no pun intended, is that 50% of the outcomes happen before that number, 50% of the outcomes happen after that number. So when you're born, 50% of all people are going to live up to and beyond age 78. That's only one aspect of it. Most people don't understand the second aspect of it, that the longer you live, the farther out you push your life expectancy. We have a chart here, life expectancy probability. Here you have a man and a woman living to age 62. Now, if they live to age 62, their life expectancy is actually pushed out even further. For the man, this is the 50% probability, which is life expectancy. The man's life expectancy is pushed out to age 85. The female's life expectancy is pushed out to age 88, and there's a 50% probability that one of them is going to live to age 92. And Steve, if one of them is going to live to age 92, it's going to be the woman.
I'm looking at the statistics. I mean, Social Security was built on the 1941 CSO. So I can totally understand why the Social Security system, if everybody would have died on time, we'd be okay.
Yes.
But now we're looking at this, and you brought up a huge point that I think that we need to look at. When we talk about the 50% on the other side of the line, those are the people that are going to live longer, and the female equation on this, and what I know we want to talk about some of this, because you deal with a lot of women who are widow, single, divorced.
Yes.
And they don't know all their options. We're going to get into that later on in the week, but I'm looking at these numbers. So really what we're talking about is half the country is going to live past these numbers. That's why I think it's a myth or some kind of a falsehood that we're going to be dying at 78 because that's the average.
Right. And actually, I think a lot of people make their decision because they're scared of dying too soon, dying before age 78. They don't think they're going to live that long. But that is not the issue. Dying early is not the problem. It's living too long. And I say this in when I give public presentations, dying early is not the problem from a financial standpoint. Dying early actually solves the financial problems because once you die, you don't spend any more money. But if you continue to live, and there's a high probability you could live up to and well beyond your life expectancy, you continue to spend money. That's where all the challenges come, living too long.
Now, we talked about this yesterday, and if you missed yesterday's show, just hop out to our site and watch Monday, because we talked about how people are really not thinking about the right numbers about, hey, well, my break-even point is 78.
Right.
So I don't really see that as a big deal. I'm going to take my money at 62.
Right.
But when I put inflation on top of that and waiting, this is where this issue of I'm going to live so much longer, I'm going to need that extra money and the extra COLA or inflation on top of it.
And I know we're going to talk about this issue specifically, the COLA, the cost of living adjustment feature of Social Security. That is such a great gift that the government gives us. And I recommend that people consider this when they make their claiming decision. Most people don't. And as a result, I think they minimize the benefit from COLA, and I suggest they look to maximize the benefit from COLA.
So if I'm 62, my COLA is based on that starting gate number.
Yes.
66, my full retirement date in my case, and then age 70. So really, we're talking about not just the bigger number at age 70 and having 132% of my FRA, but now you're bringing in the issue of inflation.
Yes.
That has to be huge if we beat these numbers like you say here on this graph.
Steve, you know, retirement income planning, one of the biggest challenges is inflation and maintaining your quality of life and standard of living the longer you live. And inflation is a big problem there because inflation can eat into your income and actually decrease your quality of life if you don't take that into account. This COLA feature from Social Security is one of the best there is, and people should give it serious consideration how to get the most out of it when they make their claiming decision.
When we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Brian about the survivorship issues of women. Social Security is actually a woman's issue.
Yes.
We'll be right back right after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Of course, I'm with Social Security strategist and expert, Brian Doherty. Brian, we're talking about living longer. Women generally outlive their male counterparts.
Yes.
Now we're looking at, this is a survivorship benefit. This is why this second segment we should just call it the Women's Social Security Hour, because this is really impacting women more than men. Walk me through this.
It is. Okay, well, here's an example of the survivor benefit, but I think I said in the last show that women overwhelmingly receive the survivor benefit because usually the man or the husband dies first. And when that happens, they're only left with one Social Security check. When they're both alive, they both get a Social Security check, one paid to the husband, one paid to the wife. And after one of the first spouse dies, their surviving spouse only gets one check. Now, luckily, that surviving spouse, which is usually the woman, can continue to receive the bigger check, right? But one of those checks goes away and they're still looking at a 33 to 50% decrease in their Social Security income. And what happens so many times, Steve, is once the husband dies, the woman struggles financially after his death. And one of the reasons is about 75% of the time, the husband has the bigger Social Security benefit. That's the average. Unfortunately, a lot of times he decides to claim his Social Security benefits at age 62, and he locks in not only the smallest benefit when he's alive, but the smallest survivor benefit after he dies. And his wife is left to live on that very small survivor benefit, and a lot of times she struggles after he dies. So here I have a chart of if the husband were to show the example claiming at different ages. Here it is age 62. His benefit would have been $1,500 a year if he claimed at age 66. But here, he claimed at age 62. We included a 3% COLA adjustment. I show you what the size of his check will be, his monthly check, at age 82, about 20 years later. If he claims at 62, it grows to $2,031. If he claims at 70, it's $3,576. Here's the wife's check. She had the smaller check, and she claimed at 62 no matter what. Here's their combined total at age 82 while they're both alive. $3,385, that's over $40,000. That's a decent amount of money. But if we assume the husband dies at age 82, this check goes away. Now her survivor benefit falls to $2,235, and it's only $26,820 that she has to live on. If he claimed at age 70, he dies at age 82, he leaves his wife with a survivor benefit of $3,576 a month, or almost $43,000 a year. Obviously, it's a lot easier to live on $43,000 a year as opposed to 26. Now, one thing I want to point out, Steve, most married women don't struggle when their husband's alive and they're retired, right? Because they receive 2 Social Security checks. Comparing claiming at age 70 to claiming at age 62, here you notice this survivor benefit, this one check, is $3,576. If they both claim at 62, the combined total with their 2 checks is $3,085. This one check is bigger than these 2 checks. This works out the majority of the time when you compare claimant at 62 to claimant at age 70. So this one check is like 2 checks in one. If the husband, whoever is going to receive the bigger benefits of Social Security, delays as long as possible, he will leave the surviving spouse in a much better position because this is like 2 checks in one.
Now, this is a huge issue, and not only that, but when that male dies, she may be actually inadvertently put into a higher tax bracket. So my benefit is small and my tax is larger. So it could be a problem. That could be a double whammy for my surviving spouse.
It could be.
I'm looking at this. You said 77% of married couples, the breadwinner is the husband. I'm thinking, I'm living in 2014. I thought that number would have changed. But that Pew Research, according to this, that was done in 2013. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's still the case. And you have to go with the averages. And if you look at a husband and wife, if anybody's more likely to have their career interrupted, it's usually the woman or the female. The husband, in today's marketplace, still overwhelmingly makes more money than their wife and ends up with a bigger Social Security benefit. And like I said, he's the one. His decision about when to claim Social Security is actually the most important financial decision in his wife's lifetime. And if he makes a poor decision, it's usually the wife who ends up suffering the consequences because he usually dies first and he left her with the smallest survivor benefit possible.
I think this tactic was mapping it out like this really gives a good visual for people to understand not only the math, but the actual consequence, because we're looking at women outliving their husbands. When we had the change of millennial in 2000, here in my state, we had a front page picture on the Arizona Republic of which there was 28 tri-centurions. Almost all of them were women.
Women, right.
Yeah. And when you go to any nursing home, it's like 7-to-1 women. So it's a big issue.
It is a big issue, and along those lines, in the latest census, they determined that there were 53,000 people in this country that were 100 years or older. 45,000 of them were women. Only about 8,000 of them were men. So if anybody's going to live to be 100, it's going to be a female.
Well, when you think about it, Willard Scott used to say happy birthday to a handful of people that were turning 100 every day, and you look at the Smucker's jar that he posted on his show, and it was almost always women.
Right.
Right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Miss an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. See you tomorrow.